What's up, everybody? Paul Hickey here with NoOffSeason.com. Welcome to the Sports Card Strategy Show. We have got an amazing power-packed show for you today. We're going to hit on a bunch of sports, but before we do that, I'd like to take a quick minute and encourage you to check out the Sports Card Investment Report at NoOffSeason.com. It's our sports card investment rankings, and you can save 20% by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, at checkout on the premium version of that product. And of course, I'd like to give a shout out to marketmoversapp.com, where you can also save 20% and get your first month for only $1 by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON at marketmoversapp.com. Well, it's time to introduce, of course, our co-host Kendall McKee from justbaseball.com and Wild Cards Box Breaks. And today we also have a special guest that we're going to kick off the show with, Andy Cason from Football Card Quest. He has an amazing YouTube channel where he puts in a ton of work on football cards specifically. And we are pumped to have both Kendall and Andy with us today on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Kendall, what's up, man?
Man, it's been a good weekend. I just got off spring break. So I spent all last week just really diving into some sports cards, which is no shocker to us. But baseball's about to start, boys. It is about to be here. And we didn't think it was going to happen, but it is. And I've been watching some incredible basketball as well. So all is good, Paul. All is good.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about today, and let's get over to Andy Cason from footballcardquest.com. We're gonna cover some NFL because in the last few episodes we have not talked too much about the NFL offseason player movement nor the upcoming NFL draft, and so we are really, really honored to have Andy with us today. Andy, welcome to the Sports Card Strategy Show, my man. Thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Paul and Kendall. I'm glad to be here, man. I love the name No Off Season because there really is no off season here, even on just football cards. You know, I'm 100% dedicated to football cards, but we've had an unprecedented, historic off season with some massive, team changes and trades, which has kept the football card market very hot. In fact, I've got like 6 packages to send out after the podcast today.
That's awesome. You're right. It's been for sure an unprecedented offseason in the NFL. And that's actually one of the reasons why we are called NoOffSeason.com. I was just telling you a minute ago, it seems like we've both got some fantasy football experience as well. And as you know, in fantasy football, there is no offseason if you want to try to win your league. So appreciate you complimenting the name. And again, really, really happy to have you on the show. So before we start peppering you with questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about, what you've got going on at Football Card Quest and why people should check you out over at your YouTube channel and other things that you've got going on business-wise.
Yeah. So 100% dedicated to football cards. I come from a background in fantasy football, playing fantasy football for over 10 years and just spending, hundreds of hours every off season to really drive success in fantasy football. I had some success early on, so then applied that to daily fantasy and all fantasy formats throughout the season. So when I was introduced back into sports cards in April of 2020, I decided to take that knowledge and start a YouTube channel that was 100% dedicated to football cards with, a primary focus on the investment aspect. Of course, you can see I do enjoy a personal collection, as you can see behind me if you're watching on YouTube. But that's really what I focus on primarily is the investment aspect. So I'm constantly, digging for undervalued players and then correlating that with the best cards to target for them. Because as we know, you've got like over 4,000 different rookie cards, for example, for Joe Burrow. And so that's where the nuance lies. In fantasy football, you either draft a player, you don't draft a player. It's very kind of black and white from that perspective. There's not different variations of Joe Burrow to draft in fantasy football, whereas in football card investing, there's over 4,000 different variations. So, we focus on that. We also, look at, the weekly risers and fallers and eBay strategy and just everything really around football card investing, collecting, flipping, all that kind of good stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like the point that you just made about, being able to pick the right player, but also what you really need to do is pick the right card. I've learned that lesson the hard way in my first year of actual sports card investing, and now that I'm a little bit more well seasoned, I'm more confident to put out the content that we're doing. So it's great to see that we're aligned. And all right, so let's jump into our first question. Kendall and I would like you to take a look at the following players. So on our sports card investment report at nooffseason.com, we currently have the top 6 NFL players ranked from 1 to 6 in this manner. And we would like for you to give us a commentary and possibly re-rank them for us. Tell us where you think we have them wrong, and maybe we can have a little bit of a discussion around, why we have them ranked the way we do, but why you think maybe we should tweak it. And maybe there's somebody we're missing, right? So right now, our top 6 are as follows. We have Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I love the ranking. I definitely would make some modifications. I keep Tom Brady, of course, at number 1, just because I don't think there's any more safer investment than Tom Brady. Of course, you're going to be spending a lot in his cards, especially his rookie cards. But I think even his 2020 Tampa Bay Buccaneers cards, for example, are very viable investments. And because of that new uniform and the fact that he's now coming back, he's already got a Super Bowl with Tampa, but he's the GOAT. There is nobody else better to invest in football, and especially with the fact that he's still playing. So I kept him at number 1. Now at number 2, I would actually re-rank Russell Wilson to number 2 in your rankings. I think you had him at number 5. And this is my reason why. I traded to the Denver Broncos, right? The Denver Broncos have a much better roster just all around than the Seattle Seahawks. Now, they are in a harder division in the AFC West. But when you look at Russell Wilson's rookie card values right now, you can get a rookie ticket auto in a BGS 9 for around $2,000 to $2,500. That in comparison to a Patrick Mahomes, who you currently have ranked at number 2, is a $15,000 rookie ticket auto. And Russell Wilson has a Super Bowl ring. So does Patrick Mahomes. But the roster on the Denver Broncos is considerably better all around than the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think a lot of us are going off of what we saw Russell Wilson do last time he was on the field. He had a bad season last year. He had a finger injury, which in fact he's never injured. I mean, the guy is never injured. He takes the hits really well, and he's got a beautiful deep ball, great game, very mobile as well. And so I think just that price disparity there, and not to mention Russell Wilson's rookie year is 2012. So that's the first year that Prism was made. So there's a lot of value in a first year Prism as well. So that right off the bat kind of jumped off to me. I would rank Russ to number 2.
I like that.
And then I would actually put Lamar Jackson at your number 1 spot. And this is why, because Lamar Jackson was 2019 NFL MVP. And in fact, his 2019 season was so historic. You can go to Pro Football Reference and look at their approximate values, their career values. It'll compare Lamar Jackson's 2019 MVP performance across all other MVP performances going back to the beginning of time, Super Bowl era. And that performance was a top 3 season for any quarterback in the history of the NFL. Wow. So that just goes to show you the kind of freak athlete that Lamar Jackson is. And I think if he can get anywhere back to that, now they're in a difficult division as well in the AFC North. The Bengals just went to the Super Bowl, right? The Cleveland Browns get Deshaun Watson, who is your number 6. We want to talk about that in a second. And so they're in a difficult division, also the Steelers. But I still think that they lost probably 4 games. I don't know if you guys remember, 4 games where it was decided by a final 2-point conversion at the very end of the game. So very close. Lamar also had a little bit of injury struggles last year. So also a down season overall for Lamar. But if he can get back to that 2019 type of performance, you're talking about a guy right now that has an optic hollow around $100, a select silver SGC 10 for 140 or a PSA 10 for 350. His rookie ticket autos for about $1,000. I just feel that is considerably down and has a lot of room for financial growth if he gets back to that 2019 form.
Love it. Love those plays. All right, what else you got?
Yeah, and not to mention John Harbaugh is coming back with the Ravens. Incredible coaching there. They made some improvements to the defense. They got some good weapons on offense. So I would put Trevor Lawrence. I'd move him down to number 5. The fact that he's got his rookie ticket auto is about the same as Lamar Jackson's for $1,000, and this guy we literally saw nothing. It was a terrible rookie year for Trevor Lawrence. One of the top in interceptions in the league. And a lot of people say, hey, well, Peyton Manning had some of the highest interceptions in his rookie year. And so some people have made that correlation. However, if you look at just the AFC in general, we're talking about a lot of AFC guys in Mahomes, Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Trevor Lawrence is in that AFC division as well, or in the AFC conference. So to get out of the AFC conference and make a playoff run this year for Trevor Lawrence is going to be incredibly difficult, even though they brought in new coaching. I like Doug Peterson, former Super Bowl winning coach, former quarterback. I think he's going to be a big improvement for Trevor Lawrence. They've also added some what you call mid-tier players. Like, they haven't really added any superstars to the defense or offense, but they've added a lot of solid pieces, and Christian Kirk and stuff. And they're getting Travis Etienne back, who was a star running back for Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. So I think he's definitely going to have an improvement over his rookie year, but to spend $1,000 right now on his rookie ticket auto, I think you're setting yourself up for that card to go down by like October, November, just based on the difficulty of the AFC this year.
Okay. So, yeah. So being that its most important market factor is winning games, you're kind of seeing Trevor Lawrence, maybe that being his downfall, at least at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think that's going to be his downfall. I think he could have some hype. They could come out of the gates because they were a last place team last year, so they're going to have an easier schedule. Maybe they get a couple easy opponents coming out of the gates this year in September, and you see a little bit of a spike at the beginning of the season in his values. But the problem is, with the limited supply of the cards that are currently out for him, you're paying a premium. Like, there's that limited scarcity factor right now of his cards that are driving the value up. Plus, he was a former 1.1 draft pick, and now we have new hype for him with the added weapons and the coaching and whatnot. So you're paying a premium, and then to expect him to go up further, it's going to be really difficult to buy his cards now and expect him to go up further in September. You're really, expecting them to go up further in October, November, December. And historically, if you don't come out of the gates hot and start playing like an MVP and start winning games, we've seen card prices dip in October, November. And then they go back up towards the playoffs in January. And so I think it's going to be very, very slim possibility for the Jags to make the playoffs in January.
Yeah. So we may need to adjust the timing on the buy for Trevor Lawrence, it sounds like, and maybe monitor actually when to buy him. So far, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So far, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got Lamar number 1, you've got Russell number 2, you've got Brady number 3. Is that right so far on this list?
Oh, when I said Lamar, I forgot. I was keeping Brady at number 1, and then Lamar Brady would be 1. Number 2.
Okay.
And then Deshaun Watson, actually, who we didn't talk about. So Tom Brady number 1, Lamar Jackson number 2, Russell Wilson number 3, and then I would put Deshaun Watson at number 4. Because Deshaun Watson at number 4, because I also think that his cards still have a ton of room for growth. If we look at the price,
baby, I am a Browns fan. Let's just talk to me.
Yeah, so you're a Browns fan. So when the Browns brought in Kevin Stefanski, they've got one of the best offensive lines, best run game in the league. You had weapons that were released in Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr., but that's a lot of reason because they didn't build chemistry with Baker Mayfield. So now you bring in Deshaun Watson, which the last time we saw Deshaun Watson play in 2020, I mean, the guy has a top 5 deep ball completion accuracy percentage. He's got one of the best deep balls we've ever seen in the history of the NFL, and especially in modern era quarterbacks. And he's got the mobility. So Deshaun Watson is just an incredible top tier elite quarterback that they've now brought in. You bring in Amari Cooper that they got on a discount. You've got Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's a big body, field stretching wide receiver, incredibly bursty. Anthony Schwartz, who runs a sub 4.4. So you've got weapons on the outside. You've got weapons on the inside. You've got David Njoku, who's one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. So you've got a top tier offensive line, run game, coaching, the whole 9 yards. And then the defense is very solid as well. Myles Garrett being one of the best edge rushers in the league. They've got key components as well in other spots on their defense. So that team is going to be a lot better once Deshaun Watson actually gets on the field. Now, suspension is still unknown, right? He's going to be suspended probably somewhere between 6 games to 10 games, something like that are the initial reports, maybe a full year just based on the social media pressure that the NFL is getting these days about stuff like this. But if we look historically, Ben Roethlisberger was dropped of criminal charges for similar allegations, and he was still suspended for 8 games. So I think that's what we're kind of looking at right now for Deshaun Watson. But, hey, that brings him into the second half of the season. They brought on Jacoby Brissett, who is a very serviceable, manageable quarterback. He can be a game manager and just really rely on that run game with Nick Chubb. And so I think that the Browns are still going to have a chance to make the playoffs towards the end of the year, and Deshaun Watson coming back in that fold. You look at his rookie ticket auto right now at around $1,000 to $1,500. I mean, compared to Patrick Mahomes at $15,000, I'm not saying that it should go to $15,000, but if he takes the Browns to a Super Bowl, I mean, that's going to go up to at least $5,000-6,000, maybe more, somewhere around there. But that's kind of my speculations for Deshaun Watson and the Browns right now.
Yeah. Kendall, what do you think? I mean, I'm aligned on that with Andy, and I'll give my reasons why in a second. But what do you think about what he said about Deshaun and his cards?
Yeah, I think it's tricky because, you said, going back to Andy, what you're quoting earlier, you're saying, winning games drives price. You've got 3 elite quarterbacks in one division, and the Steelers, and I don't always want to just count out the Steelers because they're scrappy, and whoever, I mean, they've got Mitch Trubisky right now, but whoever they end up drafting somebody, that gets interesting too, and so I'm a little bit afraid of Deshaun Watson's cards right now just because of all the media, but I also want to take my Browns hat off for a second and realize, okay, media always drives cards one way or the other. And typically, I've always said when media drives cards down, that's when you probably should be buying them. And so, not that Deshaun's are at the basement, because I think the basement was about a year ago, but I still probably think he's worth an investment, especially in terms of, and I think we talked about the Patrick Mahomes a couple of weeks ago, where I said I think it's a little high due to his expectations and where his price value currently is. But like if you compare those two, that rookie ticket, Patrick Mahomes being at 15 and Deshaun being at 1,500, like I'd rather have 10. I'd rather have 10 Deshaun's than one Patrick Mahomes. So.
Yeah, and in our sports card investment report, I mean, we've got some prices, recent sales on Deshaun's cards, like a 2017 National Treasures auto out of 99, sold recently for $670 raw. You've got a BGS 9510 of a 2017 Panini Prism auto purple crystals out of 75 for just over $3,000, and you've got his rookie ticket, which you mentioned, Andy, for in a BGS 9510 for $3,000, recently sold. So I like the prices, and I'm aligned with you on the room to grow, right? Because I think, Deshaun is young. He's a top 5 talent. And I like the fact that we're getting clarity on Deshaun. So I say bring on the 8-game suspension. Like, bring it on, get it done, get it announced, and then sports card investors have even more clarity on Deshaun Watson's future, because now it's kind of like what happened with Big Ben. Unfortunately, this stuff has happened. There's nothing we can do about it. If you want to invest in his cards, I think that would actually be the best thing, because maybe it even scares some other people away. I don't know if that happens, but get him an 8-game suspension. Maybe his card prices plateau or even go down a little bit. Then maybe there's another short buying window opportunity in that media cycle, because I do believe he can come back. Now, Kendall's point about winning games, there's nothing we can – that's the hardest thing to predict, I think. But all things considered, I do like the pricing on Deshaun Watson. So I'm intrigued that you have him rated that high as well. All right, so to round out the discussion here, it seems like we're pretty well aligned with like who should be in the top 5 or 6. But correct me if I'm wrong, Andy. Like, would you even have Trevor Lawrence there? And is there someone else that I missed that's on your list that you would move up into the top 5 or 6 rankings for football players? I've only named quarterbacks. We're going to segue into that in a second. But is there someone I'm missing in my top 6?
Yeah, there is a couple guys that I would add. So I would actually take Trevor Lawrence out. And if you're looking at 2021 rookies, I would add Zach Wilson. Believe it or not, I would add Zach Wilson into that Trevor Lawrence slot at number 5, because Zach Wilson's rookie ticket autos are half of what Trevor Lawrence's are. You also have the largest demographic TV fan base in the country in New York. And a lot of those are either Jets fans or they're Giants fans or maybe even upstate Buffalo fans. But the Jets have a huge fan base. Shout out to Gary V, right? And so
man, for sure. That's my guy.
And you have half, you could get a rookie ticket auto Zach Wilson right now for half of a Trevor Lawrence. You also, have big improvements in the offensive line from last year to this year, because the Jets have one of the highest amount of draft capital and salary cap spaces available. You've got good weapons in young players, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, 2 very explosive, Elijah Moore, wide receiver, Michael Carter, running back, very good college resumes, very explosive athletic players. You've also got Corey Davis that came over from Tennessee, who's played really well. And I just think that he finished the year strong. He showed a lot of promise towards the end of the year. And I think that he can flash coming out of the gates. They're going to have an easy schedule. They are in a very difficult division as well. Just the AFC in general is going to be very tough, but they're going to have an easier than average schedule coming out of the gate. And I think that they can really surprise people at some point in 2022. I think you're really with, one of the things I look at is the fact that he is so young. We've seen so little from him that the littlest amount of spike in performance can lead to a big demand for his rookie cards. And we kind of saw this last year with Mike White, his backup. He literally came in, had one big game, few touchdowns, and his rookie cards, went from $2 for a Prism to like $50 to $100. It was a crazy astronomical leap that then shortly after went back down once he came back down to earth. But we see this with guys that are rookies, this fear of missing out, this FOMO that kind of drives a lot of purchases sometimes in the card market. And I think we can definitely see that in 2022 with Zach Wilson, at some point.
I like that play.
Love
too.
it. I love the ballsy call. You are adding value right now, my friend. Nice work. All right. So here's my thought. A lot of these guys have moved around, Russell and Deshaun, and other guys have moved around that we haven't talked about yet. You've got Matt Ryan, you've got, some other QBs that maybe aren't as big of a, aren't as big a names. But let's talk about, are there any position players that need to be recognized, like a Jerry Jeudy? You mentioned Elijah Moore. You mentioned Amari Cooper. Who are the position players? Even maybe guys like, I don't know, J.K. Dobbins or some of the guys in Baltimore. Who are the position players that will collaterally benefit from being around the QBs that we've talked about so far that you want to advise sports cards investors to take a look at?
Yeah, there are definitely a few of them that we saw some little tiny demand spikes for, once the trades happened, but I think there's still a ton of room for growth. It's interesting that our market has evolved quite a bit over the last couple years since the initial boom. There's definitely a lot more demand now for skill position players, and a lot more of that demand is being driven by actual production on the field. We saw it happen with a variety of different players last year, and there could be some pretty significant demand spikes from just one game. Just one game of a big 3-4 touchdown performance. Even defensive players that had some big sacks and interception streaks. We saw that with Trevon Diggs last year. His rookie ticket autos went through the roof. So it's really interesting to see how the production is driving the demand of our card market, which makes these skill position players very viable investments, and you can definitely profit from them if you're getting in at the right entry price point, and then kind of holding them, having them ready to go when those big boom performances happen, and you'll sell some cards. And we saw some of these guys, their values go up from news alone, from speculation alone. Jerry Jeudy's a prime example on the Denver Broncos. And if you look at the Denver Broncos roster, you got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and then Albert Okwuegbunam at tight end. And they traded Noah Fant in the trade as well as Drew Lock to Seattle for Russell Wilson. So, Albert Okwuegbunam's stock went up a little bit, but there's still a lot of speculation on like who's going to get the bulk of the target share in the Denver offense. And with Jerry Jeudy having the college resume he did from Alabama, and he's only a third-year player, and he has the draft pedigree, being drafted in the first round from 2020, his cards have seen the biggest increase. They're getting the most hype, and there's arguably the most speculation, like the highest expectations for him going into 2022. But I would argue that we haven't really seen Jerry Jeudy break out yet in the NFL. He struggled with some injuries here and there, high ankle sprain last year, and we know what that kind of does to wide receivers, especially when they're trying to run routes and stuff. And that's one of the things that Jerry Jeudy is really known for, is his route running ability. But you look at a guy like Cortland Sutton, who's built a lot more like DK Metcalf, big body, field stretching wide receiver who can go up and make contested catches. We've seen him actually make Drew Lock look pretty good in the past, and Teddy Bridgewater too. We've seen him produce over 1,000 receiving yards, but he's not getting necessarily the hype that Jerry Jeudy's getting. That's because he's got another year older than him, and he's just not as flashy as Jerry Jeudy. However, he may, at the end of the day in 2022, he may have the bigger boom in his card values just based on the production that he's going to generate with Russell Wilson. So some stuff like that I look at,
Love that. Way to go deep, man. All right. So in terms of other non-QBs to invest in terms of rankings, right? So help me re-rank these guys and throw some other guys in that I'm missing. Because I know the ones you just named are phenomenal super sleepers, but these are probably the more common names. So number 1, I've got Jamar Chase, 2, Justin Jefferson, 3, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, 4, Devontae Smith, 5, 6, Najee Harris, and 7, Jalen Waddle. So again, these are non-QBs to buy. Is there any of them that you would disagree with completely and avoid? Like, help me kind of calibrate these.
Okay. Yeah, so I love Jamar Chase. Generational talent, especially with the chemistry he's got with Joe Burrow. But I mean, his cards are so expensive right now, and there's a limited supply, limited availability with Prism, Optic, Select not even out yet. So you look at his rookie ticket autos; they're selling for the same as Trevor Lawrence, sometimes more, same scarcity. So I love Jamar Chase for fantasy purposes. Like, I draft him number 1 overall wide receiver. But in terms of investing, I would rather invest in T. Higgins, his teammate. T. Higgins had a big touchdown in the Super Bowl. He actually had 2 touchdowns, one that Joe Mixon threw him. But, there was games earlier in the season that T. Higgins, I think if you go back to the historic game that Joe Burrow had against the Ravens last year, where he threw for 5 touchdowns and like 500 yards, something crazy. that game, I think 3 or 4 of those touchdowns were to T. Higgins, and we saw an immediate spike and a price spike in T. Higgins. Well, he's come back down since then, and because a lot of people will focus on Jamar Chase, and they'll just go directly to Jamar Chase. But the thing with Joe Burrow, if you guys have noticed, like, his favorite receiver is the open guy. Like, I mean, he's a very savvy, smart quarterback who makes really good decisions on the fly. And they've made incredible improvements to the offensive line this offseason, have done really well to protect him in 2022. So they're going to be right back in the fold. And if Jamar Chase is getting double covered or bracket covered, then T. Higgins is going to get open. T. Higgins is incredible. He's a lot of the reason why Trevor Lawrence was so good, has such good numbers in college. T. Higgins is just really good route runner, great deep ball speed. Contested catch rate is really good. So T. Higgins is absolutely a guy that I would look at investing in, because you could still pick up his rookie ticket autos for like $40, $50. And he's not going to be like this ultra consistent week to week guy like Jamar Chase, but I think he's got plenty of boom games in him, and we've seen it happen last year. I think we'll see it happen again, and especially in the postseason. Like, that's where you want to see those big boom games.
High floor guy too.
Yeah, I've noticed that you can. I've noticed that you can. If you can get a rookie auto of a player like T. Higgins. Last year I did it with Kadarius Toney. I was super lucky, but if you can get a rookie auto of a guy like that for under $50, if they have a good game, that card can sell the next week for maybe $150. And so it sounds like T. Higgins, falls into that category for you, and I love that. So in terms of the re-ranking any of those players, is there anything else that you would change there, or do I have them kind of in an okay order?
Yeah, so the one that really sticks out to me, like, I like Jonathan Taylor, of course, right? I love the rankings very much in line with like our fantasy football rankings, especially when you talk about dynasty fantasy, that takes their age and their career arc into trajectory, which I think has a ton of correlation over to sports cards. However, the one that I would really move down, and it's kind of unfortunate, but this is the reality of the position in the NFL, and that's Derrick Henry at number 4. He suffered the worst injury of his career this past year, and I think his age is starting to show. If you look at the efficiency metrics of Derrick Henry and Dontrell Hilliard and Deontay Foreman, who are the 2 guys that stepped in for him, they were actually more efficient on a per carry basis than Derrick Henry was last year, believe it or not. And so we're starting to see signs of the age catching up to Derrick Henry, because the Tennessee Titans have historically given the guy like 35, 40 carries a game. And so it's really catching up to him. And now he's going to be turning 29 this year. So, that age production curve for a running back starts to decline around 28 years old. So Derrick Henry, of course, an athletic freak, an anomaly, at his size and speed. And he hasn't had the injury concerns before last year, but I'm afraid that we're going to start maybe seeing some more of that. It's obviously no guarantee. You can't ever, plan for that. I don't wish an injury upon a guy, but at his age, his injury probability just goes up a lot. And his cards are still very expensive. I mean, just because he's been a rushing leader for the past several years and he's been on a Hall of Fame career trajectory. So he's a guy that I would move down to number 7, potentially out of the top 7. In terms of investing. I love Najee Harris. You got the rookie element there. Jalen Waddle, I'd actually move him down out of the ranking because of the Tyreek Hill trade to Miami Dolphins. I think Tyreek Hill is going to demand at least a 15 to 20% target share. And it's I didn't like the trade for Miami. I think it's a very repetitive player as Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. They're very similar players, and I think they're going to be competing against each other. And you actually have Mike Gesicki, who's a big body tight end. Yeah, Mike Gesicki, man. I love investing in Mike Gesicki for 2022 because he is an incredibly massive tight end, but he is used almost exclusively as a wide receiver. In fact, he lobbied to be paid as a wide receiver. It didn't happen. He got the franchise tag for 2022, but this is a guy they're going to line up in the slot. They're going to line up outside. They're going to move him around. He's going to be – they also traded away – this just was over the week, and they traded away Devontae Parker to the New England Patriots for a third-round pick. So you got now two repetitive speedsters on the outside, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. They can move those guys around. But your big body wide receiver is going to be Mike Gesicki. So I think that Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill are going to be competing for targets. I think this is going to hurt Jalen Waddle's target share, even though he does have the chemistry with Tua. They paid a lot of money for Tyreek Hill. They're going to want to use him. They're going to scheme him into a lot of different plays. He's also a kind of guy that kind of demands the ball or he starts getting upset. So there's going to be some interesting target competition there. But the one guy that I think is consistent and is going to have an improvement this year is Mike Gesicki. And his cards are still very undervalued. And this is a really good receiver from college. And just, I mean, you can't defend him. He's a mismatch nightmare whenever you line him up as a wide receiver, which they do over 50% of the time.
Seems like it's a really close analogy to the guy over your left shoulder right there. So
yeah, my man Tyreek Hill. No, it's very true because Travis Kelce. We were talking about Travis Kelce, the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs, I definitely think are, and that's one of the reasons why I moved Patrick Mahomes down. I think that Tyreek Hill is somewhat irreplaceable in that offense. Marquez Valdes-Scantling may have a similar speed, but he has a lot more drops on his resume. He doesn't have nearly the route running or the explosiveness ability, the elusiveness that Tyreek Hill has is not there with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's more of a longer, lanky, like a Chase Claypool built type of receiver, tall, lanky, fast. And he can take the top of a defense, sure. And I'm sure there's going to be some deep balls thrown his way. Is he going to catch them? He had a lot of drops in 2020. He did a little bit better last year. So I get what they're trying to do, but that's not Tyreek Hill. And I think Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league. That chemistry with Mahomes is insane. So he's going to continue to be a top guy. Maybe, I don't know how his target share goes up even more, but it's going to be at an all-time high as a tight end. So I like that from that aspect. But, the Kansas City Chiefs, they lose pieces on their defense, the pieces on their offense. And now the AFC West has just gotten better and better and better with the Broncos, the Chargers, who we haven't talked about yet. The Chargers look like this. And
how have we not talked about Justin Herbert?
Yeah, this super mutant, just a crazy team. Like, it's going to be hard to not see the Chargers make a deep playoff run, potentially the Super Bowl run this year. But it is realistic because you're playing against the Bills, you're playing against the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens, the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Raiders, who we haven't talked about yet either, and getting Devontae Adams, all the weapons they have. It's the AFC, the top 9 or 10 teams in the AFC are equivalent to the top 4 teams in the NFC. So the AFC is just a total gauntlet that is going to be really crazy.
So taking that into account, is there a buy in the NFC that you would recommend? Is there an underpriced guy in the NFC? I would think it would be a quarterback, but maybe another skill position player that you think is going to be able to outperform their current card value.
Yeah, Dak Prescott on Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys last year had the number 1 fantasy defense, and in a real NFL as well. Their defense is a top 3 defense, and they just barely, really lost that playoff game against the 49ers. And so a lot of the problems with the Dallas Cowboys, I believe, are Mike McCarthy and the coaching. Of course, he's coming back, but I still think that the Dallas Cowboys roster as a whole is really good. Dak Prescott has been a top 5 quarterback in terms of passing yards, passing touchdowns. Last year, Dak Prescott was number 4 in passing touchdowns, number 7 in yards, number 2, though, in red zone completion percentage. He's a very accurate quarterback. Dak Prescott's really good, and he was coming off the injury last year, so we saw his card values go back up. But now they're back down again, I think, just based on the way that the Cowboys end their season and that playoff loss against the 49ers was kind of left a bad taste in people's mouth. But, I mean, let's face it, the Dallas Cowboys have arguably the largest fan base in the entire NFL. If you look at their Facebook page likes, they have the most fans, even more than the Patriots and the Steelers. So it's crazy to think that Dak Prescott right now, you could get his rookie ticket auto for $750. I feel like there's a lot of value in that card. Or you could go and look at a first-year optic. 2016 was the first year optic was made, and I love those rated rookie with the portrait style. So, there's no helmet on, and you can really, see a player and everything. And those cards are pretty scarce. I mean, those cards are pretty rare, especially when you talk about the short print and the autograph parallels. And the price points are really good on Dak Prescott. I profited on Dak Prescott in 2020 and 2021, and I believe I'll do it again here in 2022.
Over your right shoulder this time.
Yeah. I love the Facebook likes metric. Props to you for throwing that one out there. That's actually extremely smart to think about a fan base. And, we all assume the Cowboys have that sort of national and even international awareness and fan base. And I think Dak sits right on the precipice of being a guy that all of a sudden he wins a couple playoff games, and that's all it takes for his cards to go like almost Mahomes level. I mean, if God forbid he wins a Super Bowl, I think he's Mahomes level all of a sudden. And yeah, he could be that guy. Like, we all want to be the guy that holds the card that goes from $1,000 to $15,000 with the playoff run, right? And so I feel like out of all the players that we've named today, Dak could be the guy that actually makes that happen. Maybe Russell Wilson, but also Dak. So another thing that we want to do with you, Andy, while we have you, because we appreciate your time, this has been awesome, is Kendall and I have started to play this game called Would You Rather, and it's also known as like running the gauntlet. I think we've coined it because the first time I did it with Kendall, it got a little tough. Kind of felt like this NCAA tournament where you're like the Cinderella team trying to get to the next round. But
it made me look really smart the next week, Andy. So maybe it'll make you look really smart. Too.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Andy has made himself look really smart, so I'm not worried about that.
That's true. Fair.
Yeah. So the first round matchup is: would you rather spend? Now, this is rough prices, everyone. So don't crush me in the comments if things have changed by the time you watch this. But we should be in the ballpark here. So would you rather spend $550 on a Deshaun Watson 2017 Prism Silver PSA 10? That's his rookie year. Just all the years are going to be rookie years unless I sort of denote otherwise. Or would you rather go Davis Mills 2021 impeccable RPA out of 10 3-color patch auto for the same price?
Yeah, I love this would you rather on this one. You're right. Davis Mills, it looks like he's going to start for the Houston Texans in 2022. I actually really like Davis Mills. He's a 5-star high school recruit, went to Stanford, has really good throwing mechanics. Like he threw, I think it was 3 or 4 touchdowns against the Patriots, and he set the rookie quarterback record against that Bill Belichick Patriots defense in 2021. And we saw some hype for the rookie cards that were available for him. It's just unfortunate he's on the Houston Texans, and they have so many other issues on their defense and the supporting cast on the offensive line. So I think that Houston gets better. I really love the scarcity of that as well. Numbered out of 10, 3-color patch auto for $550. I don't think that. I think that the Deshaun Watson. I'm going to go with the $550 Deshaun Watson Silver PSA 10, just because I think that that's going to would be a shorter flip for me. I think that Deshaun Watson's going to get hyped quicker with the Browns than Davis Mills will with the Houston Texans.
Okay. I like the rationale on that. I like that a lot. So now, taking the Deshaun Watson Prism Silver PSA 10 rookie, I'm going to give you that card and $1,300 cash, and I'm going to say,
okay,
would you rather have that combo? So, all right, Kendall's going to take the cash. All right, good work. I'm going to give you that card in 1,300 cash, or I'm going to give you a Russell Wilson 2012. It's an auto. It's a Panini Prestige auto, PSA 10. So that's an $1,800 card roughly. Or you can take the Watson and the 1,300 cash to make plays with. Which of those do you choose and why?
Man, I like that 1,300 cash. Right?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah,
Money talks, baby.
Yeah, it does. It does. And especially knowing that with 1,300, I can go and get a Russell Wilson rookie ticket auto. Maybe not numbered, but I do believe that the rookie ticket auto brand itself is more iconic. And it's very desirable, very liquid from what I've found. So I'm going to take the cash. I'm going to take the cash and the Deshaun Watson.
Quick sidebar on this. I think you just made an important point. It's about picking the right card in addition to the player. So what I want to say to the audience is what we're sort of saying subliminally here between us is that just because it's a Russell Wilson rookie auto, PSA 10, because it's not sort of that recognizable one that's the Contenders, it's this Panini Prestige, which is it's not a bad card. But notice how Andy kind of chose the path that he chose. He's going to take the cash, buy a more recognizable, more marketable, if you will, Russell Wilson rookie auto, and take the Deshaun Watson and keep rolling there. So, okay, good combo. Now you've got that combo. So now you either get to keep that or you get $1,200 and a Derek Carr 2014 Prism rookie auto out of 35.
And I actually looked this card up when you sent me the link, because I was like, I got to see this because this looks like a good deal. And I actually am watching it because this is a good deal on this Derek Carr. Is a beautiful Prism auto numbered out of 35. And I think that's a great deal. I think it was $600, around $600 card.
Yeah. For those of you not doing the math, it's about $625. Buy it now, so you could probably make an offer and get it for $600, I would think.
And that's incredibly rare, right? You've got the brand recognition with Prism, and I'm really big fan of Derek Carr for 2022. I know we talked about the AFC as a gauntlet, but they have added weapons to their defense. They've added Davante Adams, which is a massive game changer on offense. And so now you've got arguably the best trio of weapons in the league. You know, it's crazy to think when you've got all these other AFC teams with so many weapons, but Davante Adams is a game changer. And him and Derek Carr were teammates at Fresno State in college. And Derek Carr lit up Davante Adams 2 years in a row, over 1,500 receiving yards or close to it. And so we're going to see that as well with Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, one of the shiftiest, most elusive slot guys on the inside, and then Bryan Edwards on the outside. And so, I mean, it's going to be insane to watch the Raiders play. They've got also a much bigger fan base now moving to Vegas, a lot more Facebook page likes, a lot more followers in Vegas than they had in Oakland. Plus, all those diehard guys from Oakland are still fans of the Raiders as well. But now you've added the biggest stage in the country in Vegas. And so iconic brand. I think Derek Carr, that card goes up big time.
Okay. So are you taking Derek Carr in the 1,200?
Yeah, I'm taking Derek Carr, Prism auto out of 35 plus 1,200.
Okay.
Sick card.
So far, this has been phenomenal. Now, here's the last for the championship. Derek Carr, 2014 Prism rookie auto out of 35 plus $1,200, or both of the following: a 2020 Panini Prism Silver Justin Jefferson auto PSA 10, and a Justin Jefferson 2020 Panini Flawless rookie patch auto out of 20, and apparently the patch is silver gloves.
Silver gloves. You know, the one problem that I have with that card for example, is that this memorabilia inserted within the card is not from any specific game. You know, and that's I think a big thing that we have a lot of modern day jersey patch cards and memorabilia patch cards is that they're all, say, player worn or event worn, which is just a rookie signing event hosted by Panini, where, like, in some cases back in the day with the Topps events, they would have them put on like 30, 40 jerseys at once. And and so they could just say they were player worn. And so it doesn't nearly hold the same amount of value as a game worn item. And I don't know, man, those cards are really expensive. I love Justin Jefferson. He's at number 1 in for seasonal dynasty fantasy football, right there with Jamar Chase. I love the guy. I think he's going to have another massive year with Kirk Cousins, but I'm going to take the Derek Carr because, quarterbacks drive the football card market. And I think Derek Carr is going to have a huge uptick in his production in 2022 with a likely playoff appearance at the very least. And so I think the value of that card, and plus just looking at that card raw, looks like a grading candidate. So I would take that card, submit it to like an SGC or maybe a PSA, and as long as I get it back right before the playoffs, that's why I say SGC. And then, hey, imagine you get a 10 on that card. Now all of a sudden, just from the grade alone, that card goes up to $1,200, and then they make the playoffs on top of that. Now we're talking about making some really nice profits. So I'm gonna stick with the Derek Carr.
All right, Andy, let me throw a little caveat in here. You ready?
Okay.
So the Derek Carr plus $350 plus the 2020 Panini Prism Silver Justin Jefferson. Do you make that deal?
Ooh, it's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal. However, I'm just gonna stick with the 1,200 cash because I think that Justin Jefferson is pretty inflated right now, just because he's the most desirable skill position guy in the market. And when I comp like guys that are talented in the skill position category from 2020 of the comparable card, for example, look at T. Higgins as a prime example, or we could look at CeeDee Lamb, because CeeDee Lamb should be the bona fide alpha number 1 wide receiver in the biggest market in the NFL, and his Silver Prism auto cards you could still get for considerably cheaper than the Justin Jefferson. And I just think from an investment standpoint, I would rather invest in someone that's got a similar upside, but that's just like half or maybe even a third of the entry cost of that Justin Jefferson.
That's what I was hoping you'd say.
Nice. Well, Andy Cason from Football Card Quest on YouTube, and I want you to go check him out. Andy, we're gonna let you go so that you can go buy this Derek Carr card before it gets scooped up. Or better yet, maybe I should buy it for you as a gift, and then we meet up one day, and this is your gift for being on the show. No promises. Just considering it. But no, good stuff, man. Really appreciate you being on the Sports Card Strategy Show with Kendall and I. Hopefully we'll be able to do more of this, and thanks again for your time, man.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. It's been a pleasure. Look forward to meeting up one day. I hope that card's in hand.
We'll see. You never know. All right. Thanks, Andy. Talk to you later, man.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Andy Cason with Football Card Quest. Want you to go check him out on YouTube. And Kendall, good work on that one. And let's jump into the rest of the show here. So for those of you still on board with us, we are going to now go through our normal buys and sells how we normally kick off the Sports Card Strategy Show. And then we're going to talk a little would you rather with Kendall. I'm going to run him through a gauntlet. And then we'll talk a little baseball before we sign off. And I want to talk about printing plates versus serial numbered autos as well. So stay with us as we continue this power-packed episode of the Sports Card Strategy Show. Kendall, you're up, my man. Let's talk us through who you bought and sold since the last time we talked, and your rationale behind all of that.
Yeah, so I have been making, for those of you guys that are new to the show, my typical buys, I used to say my only buys, but as I get a little bit smarter, I feel like I can dabble a little bit more into other things. But my typical buys are baseball and soccer cards, just specifically. But now talking with Andy, I'm like, oh man, maybe I should go dip into some Dak Prescott or something. But like as I get smarter, I think I can, not just have bulk. And that's what was annoying me. I used to just have a bunch of bulk football, a bunch of bulk basketball, and I was just like, I don't like this stuff. So anyway, what did I buy this week? I have made some really fun purchases for me this week. I bought some Gio Reyna cards that I absolutely love. I am so in on Gio Reyna. He is a bona fide stud. He's got two parents that were U.S. men's and women's national team players themselves. He's got the pedigree. He's at the right club. Borussia Dortmund is known for just developing superstars. I mean, Pulisic is there or was there. Holland was there. Even before that, it goes on before that, and with Royce, and it just keeps exploding. But he's in a club that really just lets him play, which is really important for young men's national team players. And he's 19 years old, Paul. Like, the United States men's national team is really looking at Pulisic as like the flag carrier, but there's got to be other guys that stand up next to him. And I think McKinney is it has shown that he is one of those people. But Gio Reyna is definitely another person that as soon as he steps on the field, people are just excited and they expect a goal. You don't often see a guy who has the kind of pedigree where he steps on the field and people expect him to score. Like when you bring subs on into a soccer match, you're like, okay, like he can bring new depth, all that kind of stuff. It's just, I mean, like when you bring Jossie Zardes or Josie Altidore or something like that onto the field, no one's really excited about it. Maybe their moms, but like, you bring Gio Reyna on the field, everybody's pumped. Like this game is about to turn in some way. And I saw him take on, when he was playing the United States national team versus Mexico in this last little section of games, he took on I think it was 8 or 9 different Mexico players in one run and didn't finish it off with a goal. But it was one of the most outstanding technical runs I've seen in a long time. And this guy, get this, Paul, get this. So we've got the World Cup that we just qualified for, right? And that's incredible. First off, we should just point out that soccer cards in general and the soccer as a sport in the United States is going to grow massively from this World Cup in Qatar. And I'm super pumped that the United States men's national team made it. And I'm just over the moon with it, really. But I think, and I also heard Clint Dempsey talk about this in the draw show that they had, the FIFA draw or the World Cup draw, when Clint was talking about this is a great World Cup for us to be in, but we really want to shoot to win the World Cup. That 2026 World Cup is the one that's the really massive, yes, this is our World Cup to win type thing. We are still the youngest team in the World Cup this year. I mean, we're incredible, and we're ranked number 11th in the world, which is fantastic, but we're the youngest team. In 2026, those players will be hitting their prime, and get this, Gio Reyna will be the exact age that Pulisic is right now in the 2026 World Cup. So imagine Pulisic, as good as he is, with a World Cup experience going into this World Cup. There would be a lot more credibility and just you would know what you're getting on the World Cup standards. Now, I do think the men's national team can go out and just explode. I'm not saying that. But I do say Gio Reyna is definitely somebody who's going to be around this team a long time. He's going to probably move away from Dortmund very soon into a club, either England or a top Spanish team, and get paid mega millions. And that card that I purchased for 150 that you have in front of you here, that out of 25 purple Champions League auto right there is probably going to go for more than $150. So I'm very excited.
Out of 25.
Yeah.
I don't know how you pulled this one. $150 out of 25. Gio Reyna. It's a beautiful looking card. I don't know how you did that, but good work. That's amazing. I'm jealous. I have a follow-up question to ask you on this because the reason I texted you is because I found on eBay this card for a buy it now of $299. Now this one's numbered out of 99 and it's green. So it's not the same card you have, but it's
Same
actually
set,
a BG, it's an SGC 9.5 on the card, 10 auto, of course, because they only give autos 10s at SGC. If they grade the auto, it's always a 10. So, so what do you think of, like, I mean, is this a case where you got a deal somehow? I don't know that an SGC 9.5 is that different than raw. I don't know. I would consider these cards a bit I would consider them equal in price. So I would say that you got like a $300 card. I mean, am I right, or what? Like, is this card overpriced? Like, I don't know. You know more about the Gio Reyna market than I do. So how do you kind of assess this?
No, I think I ended up getting a great price. It was a guy that was on Twitter, and he put it on Twitter during the first game of the qualifiers. And so, then all of a sudden the qualifiers start. Then he makes that massive run in Mexico, and I was like, he said, "I'm shipping this out for 150 to whoever wants it." And I was like, "Yep, I believe in him. Give it to me." And then he was like, the one previous to that sold for 140. And so he was like, "I know it's over comps right now, but if you're watching, the United States team at all, this guy is definitely the future." And I was like, "Yeah, I believe in that." And then that next week, before the Sunday game, that same car was going for like 300. And so I was like, "Hey, it's a good play for me."
Okay. So you think this would be a decent buy then too? This one that I showed you, is this overpriced or is this a decent buy? Because I actually offered 250 and they declined it. So I'm thinking, okay, well, you've got it listed for 299 or best offer, and you're declining a 250. That must mean this is really you're only going to sell it if it's 299. Do you think that's a good buy?
Yeah, I do. Let me caution you a little bit. Right now, the Hex is just finished, and so I think if you were to wait about a month, that card would be a $250 card. But I also think in the long run, that card is not going to be worth $250 or $290. And I think I'm not scared of the SGC buys either. Soccer, a lot of cards are getting graded through SGC in the soccer world. And the suits look good. I think the tuxedo suits, in the black slabs. And I think SGC is gaining on that number 2 spot in the grading world. So I'm not that scared of an SGC 9.5 either. And it just seems like that's becoming more prevalent in the soccer world. And I think it's because soccer really started to surge when PSA went down. So we started to see a lot of soccer cards come through SGC, and now it's kind of like, okay, well, those cards are selling in SGC. There's a market share for it, so I think, that's kind of their niche right now, at least. Obviously they're doing all sports, but I think soccer has the most unique value in an SGC slab. So I would say that's probably worth about 250 is what I would say. And that person is trying to cash in on the hype. But I think within $40 is pretty close. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Any sales you want to brag about or not talk about why you sold it? If you needed to move into other things, that's always a reason. Sales aren't always profit. We know that.
Yeah. I didn't sell any cards this week, unfortunately. But I also didn't need to sell any cards this week because I've had such a good month of March, the late month of March. And so I took this week to kind of just relax. I did post a couple of O'Neal Cruz cards that I have on eBay, but then as soon as he didn't get called up on the opening day roster, the hype kind of dipped back down. So I would say you should definitely pull back into O'Neal Cruz because his cards are down again. And I literally have said that all day long for the last, if you've listened to this podcast and forever. I feel like a broken record here, but anyway, that's what I would say.
Well, we're going to get some O'Neal Cruz hype later on in the season when he does get called up. But yeah, maybe pull back for the time being, right? So,
yeah.
All right, I'm going to quickly go through my purchases. I was really excited to be able to get Pedri Gold Bubbles Auto,
Yeah, that's nice.
PSA 8. This was actually a listing on the Slab Stocks newsletter, and they do a good job of kind of sending out some of the best listings of the day to take a look at. So I was really excited about that. I did buy my first UFC card as well. By the way, the Pedri went for $610. The UFC auto of Kamaru Usman, champion 2021, Prism red auto out of 49 for $431. And I did buy one more Oscar Piastri card that I hadn't talked about on the show yet. So kind of ending my run of Oscar, but I bought probably 5 or 6 Oscar recently. And this one was for $193 all in. And it's a really good looking purple checker flag refractor out of the 2021 Topps Chrome set. He's an F2 driver in the card Future Stars. He's currently able to drive for a couple different Formula One teams if they want to insert him into their lineup for whatever reason. So it'll be interesting to see if his cards spike due to that. This one's out of 199. And then selling, I've sold the most amount of cards in 1 week that I've ever sold. And that was strategic. I wanted to move out of a bunch of stuff that I've been holding for a while, a lot of basketball, a lot of graded basketball, graded soccer, even some graded baseball that I was planning on selling during spring training. So I was excited that spring training actually happened so that I had that window to sell. But just two sales I'll highlight here. One, I did sell the Diego Maradona banger that I pulled out of Chronicles Soccer last year. Historic ticket Contenders optic auto out of 199. So that one's gone. It went for $747. Nice little profit on that one because I think the box was maybe $300. Got lucky to pull that one out of the box. Had it $30 graded at SGC. Not sure that did anything for the price of that card, to be honest, but wanted it slabbed at the time and was able to move it. Seemed to be about market value for that card at the time, so I'll take it. Wanted to move into some other things and got a little profit. This other one is I'm happy that I had this card graded. The way that I acquired this was through Topps' website. They had a Sports Illustrated The Natural card. I bought a set of 10 of them. And what they do is they have these inserts, like the same as you might get in a box or a pack. And this happened to be an orange 10 out of 10 insert. So I think the fact that it was numbered out of 10, it was orange, and it got graded a 10 at SGC, made it go for over $100, $102.50. Yeah, a lot of 10, 10, 10 on the kid, the natural Sports SI cover, kind of classic. Good look. I don't think it's a huge card, but I think like the black normal version of this card maybe goes for a few bucks. So the fact that I was able to put a total of maybe $40 into this card and get 100, I was pretty happy about that. So those are my main plays. Cool. So, all right, now let's do Would You Rather here. And we have a time limit now. So just a quick housekeeping note. If we hit the time limit and we still need to wrap up the show, I'll send you a different Zoom link.
Sure.
And we'll wrap it up, and I'll edit this part out of the show. So
yeah.
Okay, so now it's time to play Would You Rather, and this is right up Kendall's alley, I think. So it's going to challenge him a little bit.
I love
Would
the
you rather Christian Pulisic Kaboom 2019? It's a Panini Prism insert. Kaboom PSA 9. And I'm gonna show the card here. So this is what we're looking at with the Pulisic Kaboom. He's in his Chelsea kit, and it's got a Chelsea logo on it. So that's $889.99 or make an offer. Would you rather a Kamaru Usman 2021 Panini Prism UFC champion Signatures Silver Prism PSA 9, or a Spencer Torkelson 2020 Bowman Chrome First PSA 9 Purple Refractor Auto numbered to 250? So they're all about the same price. They're all about $1,000. I think you could get these cards for right around $1,000. And looks like the Spencer Torkelson purple has brought me to a link with a bunch. Here it is right here. So here's the Spencer Torkelson card that I'm referencing. And I'm going to try to pull up the Usman here in another window, but you can kind of give us your breakdown. And I know you probably had to do a little bit of research on Usman, but I know you know the other guys really well. So what would you do? Yeah, here's the Usman right here. The 2021, which is the first year Prism UFC. And this is a silver Prism PSA 9. So it's not numbered, but it is the short print silver Prism.
So I do know a tad about UFC. I've watched UFC for probably off and on for about 10 years. I was super into it when Ultimate Fighter 1 came out. I just loved the Ultimate Fighter show that Forrest Griffin ended up winning, and then he came on and just became a belt winner after that. And it really, like, there was like a period of time right around the 2009, 2010 where the UFC, I really think, spiked in popularity. You had Chuck Liddell coming out. You've got Forrest Griffin. There was just fighters all over the place. There was a lot of fighters that were really well received in the media as well. And I felt like UFC was really at a really solid point there. And so I watched it for about 7 years, and I've kind of taken a step away in recent years. Not that I'm not watching it or that I don't like it. I just I feel like the product is not as good as it once was. But anyway, that's just kind of a little background on what my UFC involvement would be. I don't like Usman just because typically I like smaller fighters. I know that sounds weird, but anyway, when I look at Usman, I'm like, yeah, okay, he's just not a guy that I just like gravitate to and just like, man, I want to watch this every fight this guy does. And so with that, I think this would be my least of the three, which I'm sure you've probably expected, but this would be my least of the three in terms of which one I would pick. I love the Spencer Torkelson card, especially he just made opening day roster. He hit a bomb on the 11th pitch of the at bat. He fought off pitches like crazy, and then he takes one into the bullpen. I love his skill set. I do think he ends up as a first baseman primarily. The Tigers are still trying to make it look like he's going to also maybe play third. I think that's just not true. This dude's going to be a first baseman DH this whole life. I think they're trying to hold on to the Miggy first base thing. But if Miggy was not there, he would be a first baseman forever and always. Amen. But I love the Kaboom Pulisic. I absolutely love it. Pulisic is I spoke about him earlier in terms of what it meant for the national team. But I love Kaboom cards. Those Panini Kabooms go for wild money. I actually think this is a pretty good price. It's probably pretty close to what a raw Kaboom would be. So my only thing would be, okay, I would almost rather have a raw Kaboom rather than the Kaboom 9. But I would definitely take this card out of the three just because Pulisic has crazy value in the next year, I think. So I think this card goes up massively in the next 12 months.
All right, so Pulisic wins the first round of the Would You Rather Gauntlet. But I want to ask you a couple questions real quick about this card. So do you believe that it's less expensive than we thought it would be because he's in a Chelsea kit, potentially? Or, I mean, I think like the obvious one is because it's a PSA 9. I guess I'm just surprised as to why this one is already priced under $900, and seems like we could maybe even get it for $800 if this, depending on how badly this seller wants to get rid of it. But yeah, it did seem underpriced to me. I was just wondering if it was because it was a Chelsea kit. I don't know.
No, I think I'm seeing this trend actually in the sports card network, which I think this is probably something that it's really good for us to talk about. Actually, is I'm seeing this trend where when I first got into like really investing in sports cards, the trend was, if you were going to buy a graded card, an a 7.5 or an 8, depending on where you were getting it graded from, was the same value as a raw card typically. And for some reason, in the past couple of months, I've realized that with PSA inflation values or whatever, really raw cards are coming really close to the value of an actual 9, which is kind of upsetting to me. And it might just be because the print numbers of modern cards are, just having a 10 of most cards is more accessible than it used to be. But I'm seeing the value of a PSA 9 being pretty close to a raw. And so the chasm has not widened between raw and 9. Where the chasm has actually widened is between a 9 and a 10, I have seen. And so it's pretty unique.
Yep.
And I think we're seeing that with this card here, because I think, a year ago or so, no matter what, the Christian Pulisic Kaboom would have gone for considerably more than, well, maybe not more than it is right now, but in terms of the percentage wise, it would have had a higher percentage price closer to that of a 10. There would have been not as much of a markdown from that 10 to the 9. There would have been a significant markdown to the 8, unfortunately. And for whatever reason, I've seen recently that the 9s are now becoming more of what a comparable market is for a raw Kaboom. So I wonder if we could actually, maybe if you, I didn't actually do this before, but if you type in the 2019 Panini Prism Kaboom, if you just look at what that is raw, I wonder how close it is to that 890 market price. I could be wrong here, but I'm going to say that it's fairly close. Okay, so there's one for 750.
And this is a PSA 9. You just can't see it in the photo. So that's interesting.
That is interesting.
I guess why would we pay $889 when we can pay $749? What's weird about this is
that's funny that the person
show the PSA.
The person slot. Didn't even want it to be seen as a PSA.
The third 9. Photo shows. Yeah, that's
unique. All right. So I mean, I think this builds even more expectation of why we're, which is kind of a fun little caveat for us to talk about. I don't see any raw ones on here.
I don't see any raw just in this initial first page for Pulisic. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised. I would expect most people to have that one graded, but yeah, maybe it's something to think about. Like if you look at your card and it doesn't look like it's going to gem, you can probably make way more money just selling it raw than you would going through the process of the PSA grading.
Okay, I was wrong. I'm wrong. The most recent one that sold March 28th for best offer $525. And then there's one in March 21st that sold for $565. So that's still even if you're going off that 750 markup, that's almost $200 difference between a raw and a 9. So
I guess it is worth taking the chance if you think it's close. If you think it's close to a 10, you still make some money on a 9, especially if you can get into the economy grading at $50. They do those little events where you have to be online and try to win the spot. But I think, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so now we don't know what this box is going to go for. This is the 2021 Panini Prism NFL trading card hobby box. It comes out soon from Panini, and it's beautiful cards. It's obviously the flagship brand Prism. It's the way to get silver Prisms and all the other parallels, and then of course the rookie autos, which I think look really, really nice this year. We've talked a lot about football cards already on this show, so we might be football carded out, but I thought it would be interesting to compare the winner of the first round, which included a UFC, a baseball prospect, and a U.S. men's national team member, against something way more mainstream in the hobby, I would say, which is Prism Football Hobby Box. So if you were given the chance to take the Prism Football Hobby Box 2021 or the Pulisic PSA 9 Kaboom, which one would you pick?
Would I be ripping the box, or would I be holding?
You could do whatever you want with the box. There's look for 2 autographs, 10 numbered prisms, 4 silver prisms, 5 inserts, and 24 rookies per box on average.
And are you assuming it's going to come out around $1,000? Is that the assumption?
I am. Yeah, I am. I think it's going to come out around $1,000. I think they're going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a Dutch auction for this, and maybe you have to wait to get it for around $1,000. Or I think it comes out right around $1,000. I could be wrong on that, but that's my assumption. I'll give you Pulisic plus $400 because we established that you could get the PSA 9 for $750.
Ooh, that okay. So before you said that, I was going to say I would hold this wax,
Okay.
and I would store the wax and hold it. Primarily because I'm not super excited about holding a bunch of bulk football, so I wouldn't rip it, but I would hold it because I do believe that the Prism is definitely the price definitely the product that you want. That rookie auto looks stunning, and just the fact that there could be a Trevor Lawrence in there would drive the price up, or maybe not even that. Maybe it's the Trey Lance when he goes on his MVP run, like ESPN keeps talking about. It's crazy to me that he's even in the top 10 MVP lines. That's insane to me, I think. But anyway, so the fact that Trey Lance autos could be in there probably drives that market way higher than $1,000. I would assume. But I also would I think I'm going to take the money and the Pulisic here because if you gave me the Pulisic Kaboom, that also is going to be north of $1,000 as soon as the World Cup starts in September, October, or November, actually. Sorry. But if you give me that Kaboom there and $400 to reinvest in more Gio Reynas or something like that now, that's what I'm going to take.
Okay. Love it. So we're going soccer, but it was a close call on that one. Close call. I like that. So now we're going to throw one more box of sealed wax at you to get the winner. It's either going to be the Pulisic PSA 9 Kaboom and $400, or it's going to be first off the line 2021-22 Panini Contenders basketball NBA. So this is your rookie ticket opportunity for guys like Evan Mobley, for guys like Josh Giddey, for guys like Jalen Green. You've got veteran tickets of Luka in here and Trey. You've got Cade Cunningham rookie ticket, my guy in Detroit. And you are now seeing a Dutch auction format where it starts at $1,000. And my guess is that these are all going to be gone by the $680 mark. You're not going to be, if you're waiting till the $680 mark, that's my trigger point. You better buy before that if you really want these, or you take your chances on the secondary market. So pretty similar to Pulisic. Let's just say that you don't get the $400 in this case. So you have Pulisic PSA 9 Kaboom 2021 or the sealed box of first off the line Contenders. And so for this one, just so everybody knows, you do get one first off the line exclusive opening ticket parallel, one exclusive first off the line shimmer autograph, 8 inserts and parallels, and one additional autograph per box. So it's in theory better than your regular hobby box.
So I looked into this product and then I have been looking into all the rookies that are in this, and I am so stoked about what Cade Cunningham and Mobley and Josh Giddey and Jalen and all those guys are going to be studs in the NBA, I think, for a long time. Like, I think this was a pretty stacked draft class, actually. And so I actually would take this over the Pulisic PSA 9, primarily because I'm still going to hold this wax And let's say we take it at the Dutch auction at $680 or something like that. I'm totally taking this, storing it in my closet, bringing it out, several years down the road when it's, $1,600 and making a nice fat profit on it.
Yeah, and love that. Love that. I'm hype about this product too. I did notice a typo as we were talking here. Might have to
Detroit
Panini, the Detroit Pistons.
Detroit.
I'm a guy who has spelled the word Detroit maybe more than any other word in my writing career. So that one stuck out to me right away. I was like, okay.
Detroit.
Detroit Pistons. Error card. I'm already catching it. Cade Cunningham error card. Rookie ticket.
I wonder if that's like a screenshot or a potentially or like a what's it called when they make it in the studio. I wonder if that is a actual screenshot of an actual card that's already there, or if that's just a generated image.
I hope it's just like a proof that they catch later on in the process, and that one does not go to print, because that's pretty embarrassing. But anyway, love that. Okay, cool. So want to ask you one more question, and then I want to talk about printing plates versus serial numbered autos before we sign off. And we do have a big announcement, so stick around for that. I'm going to make a big announcement right at the end of the show, so keep listening. But first, Kendall, just give us real quick what would you say right now your top 3 investable baseball products are from a sealed wax standpoint as we get into baseball season? What if you could be holding 3 sealed wax products? You can go back as far as you want on this. I really don't care. But no price limit. What would you be holding?
No price limit?
Yeah, you have to buy it. Listeners maybe don't have this, so in theory you have to buy it, but you have an unlimited budget. So what would
I think
you?
If I had
that you could actually buy, like you can't make up like a 1952 sealed Topps.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like you can't make that up.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say actually. So I'm glad that you said, "Hey, you can't say that." No, yeah, I would say the 52 set if that was a possible thing. But I'm gonna say the 2018 Bowman is something that is outstanding. You're gonna have a guy like Tatis in there. You're gonna have a guy like Vladdy, and you are still seeing those guys come to the cream of the crop. 2016 Bowman is interesting. The most recent card that's really boomed out of that is the O'Neal Cruz rookie, but there's a lot of other really great rookie cards. Sorry, not rookie cards. I'm talking about Bowman firsts specifically. Those Bowman first autos, those 2016 Bowmans is what I would really look at in that. And potentially the 2020 draft, 2020 Bowman draft is what I would say. That draft class was absolutely stacked. 2019 draft is also up there pretty high. There's actually a lot of products that I would consider as a great investment. But 2018 Bowman, 2020 draft, and 2016 Bowman is what I would say right off the dome. That's where I'm going to go. So
phenomenal. All right, look out for those, everybody, and you heard it here from Kendall. Let's talk about just quickly a topic that I kind of stumbled on. So as I was going through some F1 cards, I noticed a 1-of-1 printing plate that I don't really understand printing plates. So I dug in a little bit further and asked some questions in some Facebook groups. What I found out is that, yes, they're 1-of-1 collectibles. They do have sticker autos on them. So it's the same sticker auto that you would get on just like a serial numbered auto on a refractor or on a non-refractor or on a numbered whatever. It's the same sticker auto. And my thought was that they could be undervalued just based on the amount of bids and the overall price on the one and the fact that it's a 1-of-1 collectible. So I did some sort of market research in some Facebook groups, and what I found was kind of 50-50. Like 50% of the people that responded said, I just don't like the way that printing plates look. And so I'm just never going to buy them. Even though it's a one-of-one collectible, I'm just never going to buy them. And then the other half said, oh my gosh, they're so undervalued. It's one of one. It's still an auto. It's still the same player. Like, these are the most undervalued thing that you could ever possibly imagine, just because of what it is. And it was undervalued in this particular case because it was an Oscar Piastri one of one. It sold for $2,325, which is
Wow.
about the same price that his just out of $299, out of $199 refractor autos that are going for / people want for them. So it's pretty close to, what his regular serial numbered autos over 99 are going for. So my thought was just to kind of get your take on that, but also let the audience know what I found. And I ended up not bidding on it further because I didn't want to own a card that possibly 50% of the market would not be interested in. It just didn't seem like paying the same amount as something that is more well-known and more well accepted, even though there's more of them. It just didn't seem like a smart play. But what's your take on this particular topic?
Yeah, I've actually kind of had some run-ins with printing plates here recently, with discussion groups and forums that I'm a part of as well. People were talking about how they're less popular than they used to be, which even probably drives up the current prices even more. I can't imagine. So let me back up a little bit. Candidly, I'm in the section of people that just doesn't like the way they look. I'm personally like, I'm not really jacked about, I mean, if I got a printing plate, I'd be jacked, but I've never bid on one. I've never like sought one out. For me personally, I'd rather much more invest in $299 auto rather than the out of one, printing plate, just because, for me, it looks like a faded card. And I think when you are a beginner to the hobby, let me also say that I believe that a lot of price spikes in prices, typically are from new investors. Typically, if you hear investors talking, they buy when the prices are low. So when the prices are at their peak, you're typically having a new person getting involved that doesn't, or somebody who's just so not disciplined in their buying habits that they're just buying at the peak price. So with a printing plate, I say that to say with a printing plate, a new investor or a new somebody who's coming into the hobby who doesn't know what a printing plate is or looks like or whatever, they're going to look at that card and be like, well, that's not the one that I'm looking for. Like I don't know what's wrong with that card, and then they'll try to figure out, they might have to dig a little deeper and be like, oh, I get it. Like, this is actually what they've used in the actual manufacturing process of printing the cards. Okay, that's cool. But it's like that extra step, I believe, takes that liquidity, is what Andy was talking about earlier, that, his card, he's going to take the one that's way more liquid. I think I would also side with you by saying I would take the more liquid option of the out of 299 auto, even though, if there was like a holy grail card out there that I couldn't find, and then I have found a printing plate, I would be pretty interested in that. But just the regular run of the mill printing plates, I'm not in on, to be honest.
Yeah. My thought was like, okay, everything has a price. And if the price of the printing plate was about 30% of the price of the serial numbered auto over 199, I could see, like, for sure wanting it and like buying it. Obviously if I pulled one, I'd be stoked, but yeah, like in terms of buying it and trying to win an auction or trying to make a huge play with somebody at a show or on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, like, it just feels like you're limiting your market for how to flip that. And it has to be at like a 30% or a 50% of what the other card would be for me to really take part in that. But Yeah, it is a one-of-one collectible, and it is legit. There's no doubt about that. So I think it's an interesting dilemma, and I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
All right. And then I just want to make an announcement that nooffseason.com is actually growing and expanding into more of a network. So we are launching nooffseason.com, the sports card content network. And thanks to the feedback that we've had from our audience, we really appreciate the feedback. And they've basically told us that the more that we can hit and dive down deeper into each of these niches that we've been talking about. So we kind of started the show with baseball, basketball, football. Then we got into soccer. Then we've got into F1. We've talked about a little UFC on this show. We're going to talk about even more golf, hockey, tennis. We're going to talk about some wrestling cards, some celebrity cards. And I think the best way to do that is to give each one of them their own show. So over the next weeks, we will be launching a show for each of those niches with the strategy name. And Kendall is going to continue to co-host the Sports Card Strategy Show with me. That's going to be our flagship show weekly. And we will release schedule at nooffseason.com of the other shows. But congratulations to Kendall, who is going to be the host of our baseball card strategy show and our soccer card strategy show. And we will be announcing the other hosts as we line them up. But Kendall is going to host those shows, and he's going to have some guests, and I'm going to pop in from time to time and help him co-host and that kind of thing. So Kendall, congratulations, man. We're really excited to have you help us grow out the nooffseason.com family.
Absolutely, man. I'm really excited about getting back into diving into a full-on show of one specific sport. You know, sometimes I can get on tangents really easily here. I mean, just like when I was talking about Gio Reyna earlier, I just went for it. So I'm really excited about getting this opportunity. So thanks for that, man.
Well, I'm excited and lucky to have you, and so is the audience. And so more Kendall and more niche content coming from nooffseason.com. And we want you to check out the Facebook group at sportscardstrategy.com. There's a link there to join. Please also subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel if you haven't already. There's also links to do that at sportscardstrategy.com. And please check out the Sports Card Investment Report at nooffseason.com. And you can save 20% by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON. So do that. And of course, check out marketmoversapp.com and save 20% on that wonderful product by also using the promo code NOOFFSEASON. Everybody, this has been another great episode of the Sports Card Strategy Show. Thanks again to Andy Cason from Football Card Quest for joining Kendall and I. Kendall, McKee from not only No Off Season Sports Card Content Network, but also Wild Cards, Box Breaks, and JustBaseball.com. Really appreciate you. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great day.